Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is about virtual service, so the magic of sub-virtual services. And the second topic is ESP, a general overview of all the authentication options that are available. We start with some updates to the technical camping channel. Then the first topic, magic of sub-virtual services, and afterwards the second topic about the authentication options. And as you might remember, for people that do those webinars with me for quite some time, I always put some live demos in there as well to demo the stuff that I'm talking about. Good. So let's start on our topic here for today. Magic of sub-virtual service. So in order to go into detail on that, we need to clarify first what the heck is a sub-virtual service in the first place. So first of all, a sub-virtual service is a second level below your main virtual service, okay? So that means all the settings you do on the main service will affect the sub-service also. Why do we need to have sub-services? For example, for an application that has multiple subdirectories. Exchange, for example. You have within the 443, you have multiple different subdirectories, OWA, ECP, MAPI, and so on and so on and so on. And you might want to do a health check for each of those sub-virtual services. Then you need sub-levels. You can play those sub-services by the normal scheduling methods, but normally you would create a content matching rule to say only that kind of traffic goes into that sub-service. And as I said before, all settings you perform on the main service, they apply to all sub-VSs as well. A setting you apply within a sub-service only applies to that sub-service, not to the others. So that's also good to know. That means you might do SSL offloading and re-encryption on the main service, right? That will affect all the sub-services as well because you always re-encrypt it. But if you enable, for example, a WAF engine only in one SubVS, then it only counts for that SubVS and no other traffic will be affected by that WAF rule. Okay. Here is a sample for SubVS. This is a sample for Exchange. In that case, you see here the main service has the ID. The main service has SubVSs. Here it's SubVS number 9. It has its own ID. The main service is 10.0.0.200, and this is the sub-service 9 below that main service. And it's for OWA. You see that here on the health check. Normally it's part of the name as well, but you can, if it's a template, the name has it included. If you do it manually yourself, then you should make sure you name the sub-service in a way that you understand what it's actually doing. Menu-wise, you have nearly all the menus you have on the main service as well within the sub-service. The only menu that you don't have here is the SSL part. You can't do any SSL decision in a sub-level because that's happening on the main service already. And you won't find the access control lists in the sub-level anymore. That's also something that happens on the main service. That doesn't happen on the sub-service. But other than that, all the settings, content switching, WAF, ESP, and so on is all available in the sub-service also. Now, sometimes you need some persistence to be shared. So you want to make sure that if your client hits server tree with the first connection he came in, all the other following connections he should also hit server tree, even though there are others. So that's persistence. You can make sure to enable SubVS persistence share. That's something you do on the miscellaneous options L7 config. You can tick that box. And then when you have SubVSs in one virtual service that have the same persistence settings, then the persistence table is extended to them. So that, for example, someone hits auto discover on server tree and now he comes into OWA, he should also go to server tree, then you would enable that. I mean, Exchange is not a good example because you don't need persistence there, but there might be some web services where you need that, where you have database access and stuff like that, and you want to make sure the server is the same. Right. What's very important is you need to enable the settings for this to be shared, and then also all the SubVSs need to have the same persistence entries for the table to be shared. Good. I also got you some links on this, how to understand how to configure a SubVS, and also what the advantages are for SubVSs, so you can review them in your own time. Now, maybe to go a bit more deeper into the question, why do I need a SubVS in the first place? So there are some advantages. First of all, a SubVS is linked to the parent virtual service. Okay, so I can, for example, have a landing page. I can have multiple host names going to one IP, to one virtual service, and then create SubVSs to kind of split them up. Hostname A goes in the first one, hostname B in the second one, hostname C in the third one. I can have different targets behind there. I can have different levels of security behind there, some with WAF, some without indication, some without, and so on. So all of that is possible with SubVSs. Makes it much easier than to have multiple services and tons of public addresses to do that. So using a SubVS will definitely reduce your IP addresses you need for each application. It is transparent, so that means the original source address will arrive within the SubVS level, so that's a good thing. You can set your exported for header, for example, in the SubVS. You can also decide to be transparent going to the rear server. If you don't re-encrypt, you can continue with transparency, but the same rule applies there. LoadMaster needs to be the default gateway for the return traffic to come back. You can have different settings in a SubVS, different content rules and so on. So that means you can have different security settings or different authentication providers, or not only that, different browsers, different user agents and so on for each SubVS if you want to. And as I said before, content rules within the SubVS only affect the SubVS itself. It doesn't affect the other ones. You can have content switching, as I said, persistence in those SubVSs. You can also use different SubVSs for different health checks, like we do with OWA for OWA and MAPI for a MAPI health check, right? Good. And now I think it's time to demo this. So I'm going to build a service for us to test this now. And let's see how good my live demo will work out. Of course, my lab fall asleep. Too long idle. Give me a second. Let me wake it up. Here we go. Okay, I'm now creating a new service for us. I checked this morning. I have an entry here called camping, and I think I can use that very nicely. So 10.0.0.110. So we will use that. I don't have any service for that yet. And we use that now to demo for today. So I can create a port 80. We can turn it into 443 later. So that's all easy. So it's a web page, HTTP. Camping. Good. So this is the main virtual service. Okay, so this is the main service as you properly. Oh, what did I do wrong here? Maybe I had a tab in there. Okay, so this is the main service, and you might have noticed in the past that you can either add a real server behind here or create a sublevel. So wait a second, there is a question. Mark, I will just read out your questions loudly because I think it's affecting others as well. I'm more used to Nginx and need to migrate Nginx virtual host to Kemp LoadMaster. Can we use SubVS to limit the amount of IP addresses and firewall rules with the content switch based on HTTP header host, like name base virtual host? And yes, you can definitely do that. And let me demo this to you now, Mark. We'll do that right now. So I'll create now a SubVS. And let's take your example. So now I created two SubVSs, and let's name the first one camping, and here we go. And the second one, I'm just naming Nginx because you brought it up now. Good. So I will add my servers behind. So app one. And just to make sure that they are different, I add them with different ports, okay? So Nginx will be going to 8088, and the camping will go to 8080 instead. Come on. So this is two different web pages, right? So one is yellow, the other one is green. So just for us to see this. So now what do I have? Here we go. Real servers are disabled. Now they're on. I don't have any entry for Nginx, so let me quickly do that as well. Now both of those will go to the same IP address, right? Good. Now, right now I have round robin between those two. Okay, so that means I should get a mess out of this. But let's have a look. Camping.progressdemo.com. And you see now I arrived on my app one. I got the yellow page back right now. And if I refresh this, now you see the green one, port 8088. So that's round robin between the two SubVSs, okay? Just to demo that, right now, scheduling method on the main service is round robin, and I have no rules here, so I do round robin between those two SubVSs. Now let's take it a step further. I'm now putting a content match rule in here. So you see here there are host match rules. Let's duplicate one of those. And we have camping. If you are into those content rules, you can use regex 101, or you check my webinars I did on those content switching rules before. It will be a bit too much today to go into the detail on that. Nginx. So now I'm matching on two different host names. So both of them go into the same service. And now I can differentiate. So I've been first of all created, and now I go into my service, enable content switching in the advanced properties. That will now give me the option to add a rule. And I can, on the bottom is always the new rules that are created. I can now assign the rules. So now the first SubVS is only allowed to take the host name camping.progressdemo.com, and the second one is only allowed to take Nginx progressdemo.com. And if I want to, just to show you that, I can put a forbidden here and simply say this host name is not allowed. If you want to, you can also use a redirect, right? So if I'm going by IP, you see that now my SubVSs are not allowed to take that host name because I didn't send one, and I get this warning straight away. But if I use the normal camping, you see I arrived at 1, 8080. If I do a refresh, right, I'm not going to a green anymore. It's staying on yellow, right? Why is it not refreshing the way I want it? That's simply because of this setting. That's one of the newer versions. You need to reschedule on each request. It's the browser cache, always nasty. So now you see I even get server 1, server 2, but still I'm only getting to the yellow one. I'm not getting to the green one anymore. But with Nginx, progressdemo.com, I definitely end up on the green one. Did I have a spelling mistake? Let's check. Yes, I have a spelling mistake, so sorry for that. Let's fix that quickly. Live demos, right? I think it was this. Here we go. So now I'm on the 8088 in the proper SubVS, and I get the green one. Cool. So I hope that was helping, Mark. I think that answers your question. So from that perspective, yes, you can use different host names and can reduce the amount of IP addresses and firewall rules, definitely. Now, the only thing you need to look out for is something I mentioned before, but just to show you this, when you use SSL, this applies for all the SubVSs. So if you do re-encryption, you come in on 443 and you continue on 443, that happens to all SubVSs. You cannot say, one SubVS I do an offload to port 80. That's not working. So on the main service, you decide on the SSL. So you cannot do offloading and re-encryption at the same time. That's not working. That's something that happens on the main service. So that means if you have some applications that come in and do not get re-encrypted, you need to do two services. One IP where it's offloaded and one IP where it's re-encrypted. And then you do your SubVSs below them, right? So that's the only thing. Good. Now, so that was that part. But now I wanted to show you even more on that part. So I showed you round robin. I showed you the content rule. Now let me show you the redirect option as well. I think that's pretty useful too. You see right now I only have the Nginx here, and I set a message, right? But that means if both of my servers are down, the message will always come. That might not be something you want. You could technically create another SubVS, and instead of this message, you add the default rule there, and you can now, for example, redirect someone. So let's call it redirect. And you can now turn someone that arrived with some request that you didn't want, and you can now turn him somewhere else. So I could now say, yes, you go to https support.kemptechnologies.com. So, and now when you come with something that's not matched by the content switching before, you get redirected. So you can now turn someone to your main company page, for example, or to a page that you want people to see when they come in with requests that are not allowed in the first place. And voila, you get redirected, right? So that's also something you can use SubVS for. I pretty much like that because it allows me to find out what that was. If I now want to, I could even enable ESP here with delegate to server. That's totally fine, and put a wildcard in there, and also put a wildcard in the directory, right? And now I can log. Let me just see if I have turned it on or that I don't send it to work. No, I don't send it to WhatsApp Gold. That's good. Now I can actually log who is doing this to me, right? What are the clients that come in with other requests that I don't want to? If I now go into the user logs, very likely it's cached already. Pity. Try this again. Maybe I should do it from an incognito browser because this is cached. Good. Here we go. You see the client was accepted and was here. You see client was accepted on my VIP. So you see the client IP, who did that, who came in there. At least that's something, definitely some option for you. The issue you saw right now that in the SubVS, you don't see the user logs when you do delegate to server. That's a bug that will be fixed in version 60. I already reported that, but that's not today's topic. But soon you will see, okay, which user was that, what IP, what client, what server, what directory, and so on will be added here soon. Anyway, you can log who was it in the first place that used that, so that's also a good thing to find out. Good, so that was enough about SubVS, I think. So we can continue with the next topic, and we are bam on time. I like that. Good. Now, any questions so far? No, I don't see that. Good. So the second topic for today, ESP, Edge Security Pack. So different authentication options. What kind of authentication options do we have? So first of all, what the heck is ESP? So what does it stand for? It's Edge Security Pack. It was designed some years ago to more or less take over all the functionalities of the Microsoft TMG product. You might remember that. So reverse proxy, that's what the load balancer is by default, pre-authentication and single sign-on. So how does it work? First of all, you need enterprise support. And enterprise support, so that's 24/7, and it allows you to use the ESP engine. Yeah, I've noted your question. Give me a second. Let me just finish my thought, and I will go to your question. So how does ESP work? ESP is simply the engine to double check that user credentials are correct. So what we do is we collect username and password, and we verify that with the authentication provider. So how does it work? In the first request comes into the load balancer asks the client, hey, do you have an authentication token? Yes or no. So if not, this example is for form-based now, we present with a form to use to collect credentials, username, password, and so on. We pass that on to the authentication provider, for example, any LDAP protocol or maybe radios, something like that. And they decide if this is correct or not. And if it is correct, then we generate an authentication cookie, and we pass on the request to the real server. Now, sorry for a possible new question, but can a real server name be updated? Yeah, what do you mean with that? Real server name? You mean the name it's showing up on the load balancer? Or you mean that I changed the host name going to the server? If you don't mind, I will go through the ESP part quickly, and then we return to your question, and I can show you what I understand from your question, okay? And we can discuss that in the end, so we don't need to make everyone wait, and we can do that. Name given at initial install after IP change. I can change the name, sure. You can change a real server name, but that's a Windows thing. That's after the install. You can definitely change the name. I mean, on the load balancer, you can do content switching, header modification. But if you want to change the name of a server itself, you can do that in Windows. I can show you that in a minute. Let's do this topic first, so we don't bore everyone else here, and then we take this afterwards. Okay? Yeah. Now, I mentioned single sign-on. What is single sign-on? Single sign-on means I authenticate once, but I can then use multiple authentications without authentication again. You can do the same thing on the load balancer, multiple virtual services that you put in the same SSO group. They have the same single sign-on. The token is allowed and you go through without authenticating again. What you need is the same client authentication provider and the same server authentication provider. That's important. Now, what do authentication providers do we offer? We have LDAP, that's including LDAP S, Global Catalog, and Global Catalog S, right? This is all LDAP protocols. We allow radios, RSA Secure ID. We can check for client certificates and verify the credentials within the certificate with LDAP. You can combine radios and LDAP together, and you can also combine RSA Secure ID and LDAP together. And we do have the option to use SAML, which means that we don't collect the credentials ourselves. We just redirect to the SAML authentication provider. There you authenticate with your SAML protocol, and you come back to the load balancer with a token that we verify with the SAML authentication provider. And that also works with OIDC, which is the lightweight of SAML. I did a webinar on this before. At the moment with Azure, we're working on other authentication providers for that too. Same thing there, we redirect to that authentication provider, you get authenticated there. There's also an option that was working all along. Via radios, you could also connect to Azure MFA. The good thing on that is that we talk with radios, so that means we can have our own form collecting username and password, and Radius is passing it on to Azure. That allows us to continue with form-based to a server, for example, which SAML or OIDC would not allow because the load balancer never has username and password together. So it cannot pass on with form-based. You need to go with Kerberos further. When you do SSO on the load balancer, when you create an SSO domain, you also have client authentication security options. Oh, sorry. For example, you can set how often is a client allowed to log in wrongly. In what kind of time frame is he allowed to log in wrongly? And when he hits that, here, for example, 3 wrong attempts within 60 seconds, then that user will be locked on the load balancer. That means within that, here it's half an hour, within that half an hour, no request done by the user will be passed on to the AD. That means the AD will not be blocked. Pretty good. Imagine one of your users had the password changed and forgot to do that on the iPad which he has lying at home. Now that iPad always tries to log in and download the latest emails, for example, but has the wrong password, right? You don't want the AD to be blocked and that user cannot work at all anymore, because every user that doesn't work doesn't earn money, right? So instead, only the iPad with the user is blocked, but the user can still work from his laptop normally. Does that make sense? Because the AD isn't blocked. So that's a benefit using this method. Also, try to brute force something where all the requests within half an hour never touch the AD. So that means it's barely impossible to brute force this. Also a good thing. You can also decide if you enable the public-private option, what the timeouts will be between public and private. But I have not seen it that much used. Now, what kind of options do we have then within our virtual service? We can either delegate to server. That means we don't do the authentication. We just check for the host and for the directory, and only what's in our allow list is allowed to go through. But the authentication itself happens on the server side. Good. We will create those logs and we check for host and directory. That's cool. Form-based, we present a form which you can, of course, manually change. I might need to do an English webinar on how to change the image set. We present a form, username, password, token, maybe all three of them in there, and we collect the information. Certificates means the client needs to present the client certificate and we verify the details of the certificate against LDAP. Basic, you do that, for example, with ActiveSync. We accept, or we expect a basic header to be sent with username and password right in there. If not, you get a basic prompt. NTLM, so that's your Windows authentication. I don't even go further in that. I think that's enough. So if Windows authentication is not set, it will fall back to basic anyway. And SAML, we redirect to ADFS, or OAuth, we redirect to Azure. So these are the client sides. Server side, none. So for example, if your server does not have any authentication, but you want to use a load balancer to do an authentication beforehand, you can make sure no credentials are sent to the server. If you come in with basic or with form-based, we can pass on basic authentication to the server in the back. If you come in with form-based, we can pass on form-based to the server and fill out the form for you so the user does not have a double prompt. Kerberos constraint delegation, so that's mainly used when you use SAML or OIDC to pass on server credentials. And server token is for the VDI system. So that's the Citrix part here. We try to use our own option for the VDI balancing, and there the server token authentication is needed. Now, here again, a little list. When I come delegate to server, then I don't continue with anything in the backend. Obviously, basic can only continue with basic. Form-based can continue with basic, KCD, form-based or none. When I do NTLM, I can only continue with KCD or none. With a client certificate, I only continue with KCD, and SAML will do KCD or none. The same applies to OIDC, which is SAML Lite. Good. Now, when you use Edge Security Pack, you get logging options, connection logs to show you what client came to my VIP, and sometimes you even see to what server he was sent. Security, that's when your authentication provider is down. It will alarm here when you do an IIS attack, or when you do when you come in with the wrong username and password, No, that's in the user logs. When you come in with the wrong host name, for example, or wrong directory, that will all pick up here when you got a forgery. And user access is what user got authenticated, where did he went, what directory, what user agent, and so on. That will be found here. What do you need to look out for? When you use Kerberos constraint delegation, make sure the DNS reverse lookup is working. Otherwise, KCD will be a nightmare. Time synchronization, make sure you have your NTP set. At my early times in Kemp, I had those situations. You got authenticated properly, but the time was not right and the token was already expired once you got it. So that was pretty bad. Your communication between LoadMaster and the authentication provider needs to work. If there's a firewall rule blocking it, you will never get authenticated. And then sometimes it's very good to know what way the server, for example, needs the user credentials. There are still people working with Windows 2000 nomination rather than UPN. So that's definitely something to look out for as well. Good. I think now I need to demo this. Hopefully that works out for me. Okay. Live demo. Is my lab still alive? Come on. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's demo this. I have progressdemo.com with LDAP, so that's fine. I have a domain with LDAP. I also have a domain with SAML, which is pretty good. I do have created one with Radius, so that's good to know as well. Hopefully that works out. It's a Windows Radius, but because Windows Radius by default is too stupid for MFA, there's a third-party tool running on this server to do MFA for me. I have OIDC with Azure, so hopefully we get that working too. Cool. I think that will help a lot. So let's start on the one we have built today. I go into the camping one. And now let's enable ESP, and yeah, we can limit this. So camping.progressdemo.com. That's the wrong host name. Maybe I leave it wrong in there just to show you this. And I allow every directory just for now. So what will happen if I go there now? I get an access denied because I have the wrong host name in there. And in my ESP logs, you will see that now I arrived in the security logs. You will see I arrived with a host name that was not in the allowed list. Okay, so this is the reason you see my client on this VIP was blocked because of the wrong host name. Now, let me fix this. Here we go. And now we got through. We didn't do any authentication. That was simply delegate to server, but we checked the host name and the directory. So let's move it up. Basic. And I'm using now my progressdemo.com authentication. I could put a group in here if I want to, but we don't go that far yet. And now you see I got a basic prompt and I need to log in first before I get access. Now you see my web page and you also see the authentication header in basic that was passed through. So I now send the basic authentication to the server as well. We got authenticated, and this was this user log you see here. User 1 was successfully authenticated against LWS, came from this client, and he went to this web page with this user agent string. Pretty nice. Now, you see there's no log off here right now, so I will, just to demo this, I will now kill this session so that we can continue again. So I killed the session, and we change to form-based. Let's do this. You see also I cannot change anything on the server side. Let's change to form-based. Form-based authentication. The SSO domain remains the same. All of those things remain the same, and we just put a logout string as well. Now I can continue with none, or I can fill out the form in the backend. My server does not have a form, but just for you to see that. So let's go back to him. Now you see I need to authenticate, and I got this default image set, which of course you can change, right? Here is one that I made myself, and whoop, there you see it's a different image set now. So that's pretty easy. This public private is what I said before. You can choose the time here of your SSO domain, right? I have a public section and a private section. If you use idle timeout like me right now, that question makes no sense. But as you see here, max duration by default has totally different values. So then it would make sense to ask for private or public. If you don't want this to be displayed, you can simply tick that box, and then you will see that that question goes away. So very, very easy. So anyway, I have a form-based form. Now I need to log in. And yeah, my redirect didn't work. That was me now. Sorry for that. And now I'm at my server. I got an authentication cookie. You see that? Yeah, that header was still there from this browser, but that's fine with me. I was authenticated using form-based now, and we see that also in our user logs that first that was my user was killed, and this was administrator got logged in and went to this page. Good. Now, I think I have a SAML one created here because it needs to be registered properly. So bear with me. Here we go. So there's a SAML one. Just to show you this, there are multiple behind. I think I've disabled those because I was not finished with them yet. So here I'm doing 443, and it's using SAML and Kerberos to authenticate. So let's go to this guy. I got redirected to my ADFS. Now I do my login. I always switch those. I don't know. Something odd today. One for all. And what do we see here? My SAML login didn't work because I have some changes made, very likely. I didn't test this beforehand, but you see straight away that was from the server coming back. Maybe my load balancer thing is wrong. You see this? That should be fine. That should be fine. Maybe I need to change the signing cert again. But you got the essence of it. You get redirected to your AD, and then after authentication, you get redirected back. Now, Oh, OIDC. Right, let me see. Do I have OIDC enabled somewhere? Yes. Yes, I have it down here, and hopefully my server is set that way. Um, so that was a sample I made a while ago. I think it's the Edge browser. Yeah, flag one. And it's only from the Edge browser, I guess. Yes. So if I'm using the Edge browser to go to mail.progressdemo.com. Why did he send me to SAML? That's interesting. Ah, got it. Okay, fair enough. Interesting. Let's try this. Yeah, I didn't expect that. Okay, let's change it from SAML to OIDC. That was actually what I wanted to show you. Here we go. And OIDC and cameras. Good. Now try this again. Yeah. Mail.program. I get redirected to Azure, to be expected. Now I log in. I got log. This is Azure now. My authentication. Now I very likely. Oh, American keyboard. Remember that. Here we go. Now I got the MFA on my phone. Come on. Where is it? Didn't come up yet. I'm surprised. Normally I get bombarded with this stuff. Let's do this again. It's no LoadMaster issue now. Okay. My laptop broke last week, so there might be still some authentication issues here on the new laptop. I'm sorry for that. Sugar. I have a webinar on OIDCs. We can demo that there. Now let's try it one more time and then we continue. Yeah, my mobile authenticator doesn't work. That's weird. It still worked last week. Okay, fair enough. Radios, we haven't done that yet. One more thing. So let's go back to our initial one and change to radios. Hopefully that doesn't let me down now. So you see, I need to log in like normal. This information is sent to the radio server. Hopefully he's happy with me today. And it should ask me for a token afterwards. Nah, today is not my day, guys. Do we have other questions? Interesting. When I noticed that, and you said you're able to turn on capture. How does it work? Does it redirect? It does not redirect. It shows underneath. It shows the pictures underneath. Then, so you can use Google Capture. I did a webinar on that and demonstrate that a while ago. But you can also use other authentication providers for capture. And simply below the username and password, you have then the option to select all the traffic lights and or all cars in the pictures and so on. And yeah, that's fine. That's the way it works. To continue or is bound to the authentication form. I mean, there's a piece below, right? Within the authentication form, you have that it's a one-line thing in there to allow the capture in the first place. Yeah, I'm aware of that cast thing. There is that we still have I have a French customer where we have a Jira running to fix something there with a CAS on OIDC. I'm not sure if they write a paper on this. If I find time, I'm happy to do that. But yeah. Right. Oh gosh, my time is gone now. Sorry. I would love to have shown you the radius part, but you know what? We will do. That was an overview on what's possible anyway. So we will do webinars on how to do OIDC and SAML, and we also should do a webinar on radius and stuff again to get more into detail with that. As it was an overview today, it should not go into too much detail, so sorry for that. Now, so thank you anyway for being here today. Now, one question was still there, was from Pierre, right? Pierre, just for you, look, on a server, you can change the host name straight away all the time, whenever, even after installation. So you have a rename PC option. You can change your name of the PC at any stage. Now on the LoadMaster, you can do that as well using a content rule. You can change your host name, for example. So mod host. Just to show you this. So replace header. So host. Now I don't care now what kind of header was in there. So let's just put in the wildcard. And we want to replace it with, let's take your name here, .progressdemo.com. So now I will change any header coming in with the new header that we just decided. So, and let me turn off the ESP so we don't get bothered with it right now. Now here you see camping is what the user is now accessing, but the host name sent to the server is not camping. It's pierreprogressdemo.com. I think that was what you were looking for, right? The real server identity under SubVS. I kept the initial server too, but the validation. Oh, now I see. So you mean the real server here? This is not something you can change. Whatever is in the brackets, that can be changed because that's what he's doing and is lookup for that, right? But the name you have in here cannot be changed. If you want to use a different name, you add the server again with a new name and you delete the old one. You can't change that name here. So when you have a different name to get to that server, you simply add a new server with that new name and you delete the old one. Good. So I guess I've answered all the questions. Then you need to delete the server first and add the new name in. Yeah. He just said that he tried to add a new the new name, but the IP was there already. So yes, then you need to delete him first and add the new name in. Then it will work then. Okay, guys, it was a pleasant webinar, even though loads of my demos didn't work out, and I'm sorry for that again. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope I see you in September again for the new topics. Have a great week, guys.